I'd like to thank our reader, Debbie Barnett, for the wonderful reading today, and Chariot Duo, Amy and Jesse, as well as our CSL music team for the beautiful music. I can hardly believe that today is our final message in our series of This Thing Called You. And we've learned a lot thus far. And today we're going to be challenged to see everyone as divine. And that's a big order. In the last 16 weeks, we've gone from living in joy, learning to be the captain of our soul, being guided by love and inspired by truth, planting our gardens of love, watching our thoughts because we know that they mirror what comes into our lives, living in joyous expectancy, fasting from fear and feasting on faith, and learning to use our 2023 God Present system, which is always updated. We've even withdrawn those veils that hide the real essence of ourself. And last week, we celebrated God's Day, all that we are, and the wonderful things that each day brings. Today's our final lesson, and it's the biggest gift of the series, seeing everyone as divine, including ourself. So our topic today, the household of God. In the Bible, in Colossians 2:9, there are these words that remind us of our divinity. For in him all the fullness of deity dwells in bodily form. Keeping that in mind, today we look at how to live from that secret place of the Most High within us, how to have confidence in the divine presence, and how to permit divinity to shine forth from ourselves and from everyone. So here's your question for the week. What's the one choice you can make today to uncover the perfection in everyone, including yourself, and to embrace the secret way of the soul, allowing the divine presence to externalize through you and gift you all your good? One more time. What's the one choice you can make today to uncover the perfection in everyone, including yourself, and to embrace the secret way of the soul, allowing the divine presence to externalize through you and gift you all your good? In this week's reading, Debbie read words that I think are worth highlighting and repeating. You live in the house of God. The household of God is a household of perfection. It is the secret place of the Most High within you and within all. The inmates of this household are all divine. They will become as divine to you as you permit. Think about it. The inmates of God's household are all divine. How many of us believe in our own divinity or in the divinity of everyone we encounter? Today, I'm inviting us to take time to notice the inmates and see how much divinity we are willing to accept, how much perfection we can uncover in another person when perhaps it seems that they're truly hiding their own identity and their own divinity under some type of steel container that's not letting out very much light. Imagine if we could take time to live from that place within us that sees everyone as divine. You know, way back in the time of monasteries and monks that were very prolific on the planet, a young man had had a bitter disappointment in his life, and so he went to a remote monastery, and he told the abbot, "I'm disillusioned with life, and I wish to attain enlightenment to be freed from sufferings." And then he admitted that he couldn't stick to anything for very long and requested a shortcut to his enlightenment. So the abbot said, yeah, there is a shortcut, if he was really determined. Then the abbot asked him about what he had studied and what he had concentrated on in his life. And the young man said, well, I was privileged. I grew up rich and I didn't have to work. And the only thing I'm really good at is chess. So the abbot summoned one of his monks who was good at chess, and he told him to bring his chessboard and his chess pieces. And when the two were ready to play chess, the abbot stopped them and he showed them a sword. He asked the monk if he had sworn obedience to him, and the monk said yes, he had. So he told the monk that he was going to be obedient to him and play chess with the youth. And if the monk lost, he was going to lose his head, cut off with the sword. And then he turned to the young man and told him the same thing, that if he lost, he would lose his life. Both agreed. Then they began to play. The chessboard became their whole entire world. They were concentrating on it, and the young man realized that the monk was very good. And he was struggling until the monk happened to make a mistake. And now the youth's position was strong. He looked at the monk, and he saw a man of compassion, of intelligence, of sincerity, years worn with effort. The youth thought of his own unworthiness, and a wave of compassion came over him. So he deliberately blundered in the game. The abbot leaned over and he upset the board, and the monk and the youth were stupefied. The abbot declared, there's no winner or loser here, no head to be cut off. He told the youth that he had learned complete concentration and compassion, willing to sacrifice himself for the monk. He invited the youth to stay at the monastery for a few months and to pursue his training in the spirit that he had shown during that chess game. And he said if he did that, his enlightenment would be ensured. The youth stayed and was enlightened. The story reminds me that every life is divine, and no matter what our gift might be, no matter how inconsequential that gift may seem, that what truly is of real importance is compassion and the willingness to see ourselves and others as divine. Ernest Holmes, in Observations, put it this way: in taking those small gifts of our lives, which seem so limited, so slight, and so inconsequential, bless them with a steadfastness which has behind it faith in the invisible, a conviction that we are spiritual entities in a spiritual system, and that there is a divine destiny back of each one of us. The destiny for that young man was being able to see his own worth as well as the worth of others. Remember, the story began with a young man confessing that he was disillusioned with life and he wanted to attain enlightenment so he could be freed from his sufferings. When we're disillusioned with life or in fear, feeling lack in some way, where do we go for enlightenment? I doubt many of us in this day seek out a monastery. And yet that question is very important. Where do we go to obtain enlightenment? Think about that for a few minutes. Where do you go? I know that I go to prayer, and to my friends, asking them to pray for me so I can remember who I am. I know that I'm a child of God and that I'm abundant and filled with gifts that only I can bring to the world, exactly because of who I am. And sometimes I forget that. And I need someone to remind me. For me, remembering my unique gifts to give is essential to my living a life of joy and a life of peace and contentment. Edwin Gaines, in the 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, wrote this: God is glorified when you stand up and acknowledge who you are and claim your birthright. And who are you? You are a divine being, a child of God, the Most High, a person who deserves to have every good thing that life has to offer. Do you have confidence in the divine presence? Are you claiming your birthright? Do you believe that you deserve to have every good thing that life has to offer? And if not, why not? Lack of confidence in the divine? Think about it. Claiming your birthright and standing up to acknowledge your own divinity is how God is glorified. It's how other humans see God through you. And it's also how you see the path of your own purpose and fulfillment to all of your own good. Ernest Holmes said, "It has been said that we can know God only insofar as we can become God." So where do you know God? Knowing the answer to that question is where you can become God and embrace all of your own divinity. For me, I know God is in my joy, in the peacefulness of nature, in the ability to say a prayer for myself or someone else. And that's where I know I can allow God to flow through me, to be as me on this planet. You know, last week we talked about celebrating our successes, and I want to delve into that concept just a little bit more. Because how many of you truly remember the last time that you acknowledged all the good that you bring to other people? Or acknowledged all the good in your life, even when things are going wrong? Ask yourself this question. Are you willing to glorify God, to accept the one life that we say we are all a part of, and to see all your good? There's a Sufi story about an old man, Nasruddin, who was looking back on his life, and he was sitting with his friends in a tea shop telling this story. "When I was young, I was fiery. I wanted to awaken everyone. I prayed to Allah to give me the strength to change the world. And in midlife, I woke up one day and realized my life was half over and I had changed no one. So I prayed to Allah, give me the strength to change those close around me who so much need it. Alas, now I'm old, and my prayer is much simpler. Allah, please give me the strength to at least change myself. Give me the strength to at least change myself." As he progressed through life, Nasruddin began to see life with different lenses. And a good first step for us to learn to do just that is to adopt an attitude that we live in the household of God and embrace all that that truly means. We live in the household of God, in which all of its inmates are divine. Ernest Holmes and Creative Mind helped us with the meaning of that. We have within us a power that is greater than anything that we shall ever contact in the outer. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and in a new life. Along our journey these past 16 weeks, we talked several times about God and us being a majority. If you truly embrace living in the household of God, where God is right there for you, how could you possibly be dissatisfied, feel lack, feel unworthiness, be anything other than living in a state of joy? Imagine living with the light of the divine shining everywhere. Wow. Psalm 23:6 tells us, "Only good shall follow me all the days of my life." Yet how many of us believe that? How many of us feel that good? And do we feel it when we're in judgment of others? I certainly don't. Ernest Holmes in Lessons in Spiritual Mind Healing tells us this: we do not have to know the specific means by which our good is coming to us, for it is inherent in the law. We must be sure and never doubt that this good is forthcoming. Never doubt that our good is forthcoming. And yet, how often do we get disillusioned or tired of waiting for some good to show up and doubt that it is forthcoming? You know, we live in a world almost of instant gratification most of the time in many areas of life. It's important that we remember when we're looking for that good, that peace, that joy, that all is in divine time. Prayers answered exactly on time for us. Now that can be really hard to do. Just recently, a friend of mine said she was amazed that she woke up for the first time in a very long time feeling pain-free. Now, a lot of us have been praying for that for her for quite some time. The time was right there. Let's go back to that opening quote. The inmates of this household are all divine. They will become as divine to you as you permit. Once you accept that your good is boundless, how do you spread that knowledge? And how do you believe it to be true for everyone? How much divinity are you willing to permit? Here's a tip. It's not about the other person being divine. It's about your view of the world. Your view of the world and your view of others. The world I see is the world in me. I'm sure you've read about things which happen, and they interview a lot of people that saw it happen, and everybody has their own interpretation and actually saw it a little bit differently. We all come from our own set of biases, and they creep into our seeing everyone as divine. Think about this example. A fast driver speeds past you, and he almost causes a wreck. Where does your mind go? Be honest. Would you be thinking of his divinity at that moment in time? Well, I've been that driver at least once in my life. When my son was diagnosed with brittle diabetes, I wasn't aware of all the side effects, and he was having a seizure one morning. I didn't know what to do, so I threw him in the car and I ran a lot of red lights as carefully as I could. I sped on a lot of back roads. And there were probably a lot of people that saw me running those red lights and said, wow, she's really crazy. So back to the fast driver. If you knew that his child was dying and he was driving fast to rush him to the hospital, would you change your mind about your thoughts? Would you give the driver the benefit of the doubt? I suspect you would. You know, we spoke last week about what I call the expectancy bubble. Expecting life to be different than it is, expecting others to behave in ways other than what you would behave or how you would behave, expecting that we can change the past. I'm wondering if we have an expectancy bubble with respect to divinity. Do you expect your own perfection? Do you expect divinity as you? This is an example of us wanting to embrace that expectancy bubble. Are you looking at things that come into your life as trials and tribulations or as lessons? What if everything that happened we took as a lesson on our path to perfecting knowledge of our own divinity? What if we decided from this day forward that we're going to choose to see divinity even when the outward appearances are anything but divine? Think about it. Life is like a mirror reflecting the image of our own beliefs. What if you learn to ask yourself this question? What am I learning right now? Or when you're heading to bed, what did I learn about God and my own divinity today? Imagine the world if we let that gel while we were sleeping. What did I learn about God and my own divinity today? In A Course in Miracles, lesson 132, it states, I loose the world from all I thought it was. And it goes on to say, the world is nothing in itself. Your mind must give it meaning. What if we decided that the meaning that we were going to give to the world is that it's a household of God with all its inmates divine? Imagine a world like that for a moment. Let's each put that into our expectancy bubble and bring it about. Wouldn't that be marvelous? So in summary, how might you remind yourself that you live in the household of God? That the household of God has divine inmates, and the inmates are as divine as you permit. Know that you deserve every good life has to offer you. Have confidence in the divine presence. Glorify God by acknowledging your own divinity. And like Nasruddin, have the strength to change yourself. Permit divinity in everyone. Let's work on giving everybody the benefit of the doubt. And expect divinity as you, knowing that all of life is lessons. Loose the world from what you thought it was. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it I so easily and willingly make the choice today to uncover the perfection in everyone, including myself, and to embrace the secret way of the soul, allowing the divine presence to externalize through me and gift me all my good. So the challenge for the week is this: live in the household of God and see everyone you encounter as divine. Observe yourself when you're around others and notice when you're judging their actions and seeing faults, and shift to giving them the benefit of the doubt. And check in a couple times every day. Just see how you're doing. Remind yourself, divinity is the divine birthright for everyone. Let's pray. Because it's the last week in our series, I wanted to use a prayer from the book rather than my usual prayer ending. Here it is. I know that the law of God surrounds me with love and friendship. I permit this love and friendship to flow out to all things, to all people, everywhere. I let it radiate in my environment. Bless everything I touch. Make whole that which is weak. Turn fear into faith. And accomplish the miracle of healing through love. Whatsoever things are good and true, I shall think upon them. This I shall remember, that the Spirit is not far off. I shall remind myself that I live in the divine presence, that my affairs are in keeping of the eternal mind. I live, move, and have my being in wholeness. Peace, poise, and power belong to my kingdom. I give joy and love to all, knowing that the gift of life is not to me alone. I share my good. I welcome the opportunity to love fully, completely, and joyfully. I believe in myself because I believe in God. I accept life fully, completely, without reservation, holding the conviction that good is the eternal reality, that God is the everlasting presence, that Christ within me is the eternal guide, that my life is complete today. It's with so much gratitude that I complete this series, this journey that we've been on for the last 16 weeks. Thankful for each of you that joined me along the way. So I just release this prayer into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing the truth that the yes has already been said. So I can just let it be. Say amen. And let's affirm it together. And so it is. I'm so grateful that we are continuing to have people donate and keep our community healthy. And I'm encouraging you that if you are enjoying our particular messages and you haven't decided to donate, there's all kinds of ways, and it's really easy. I hope you will make that shift today. Thank you very much, and enjoy our offertory song.